Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to my vlog, I Never Thought I Would, where we talk about doing things we never thought they would do and the fantastic places that they can lead us. Today, we have author, writer, musician, John Taylor to talk to us about doing things he never thought he would do. Hi, John.
Hi, Jen. How you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I am doing great. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I'm so excited. You have such an eclectic background from film school to journalism to touring around the US as a rock star, sommelier. You've got so many things that you've done in your life. I'm sure there's dozens, hundreds of things you've done that you never thought you would
Many things
do.
that I never thought would happen. Yes.
So So today I'd love for you to pick one to share with us and let us know where it led you.
Okay. Well, I think the one that I never thought would happen and that I ended up in for a while was real estate. I never thought I would be in the real estate industry or where that led me. So to give a little context, I was a musician like you talked about. I was in a band called the Uninvited, and we did 7 years in the LA club scene, in the '90s, trying to make it. And then finally in '97 we signed a deal with Atlantic Records, and got our little 12 minutes of our allotted 15 minutes of fame, and did all those rock star like things. We were at the MTV Music Video Awards. We went on big tours. Did every we like to say we did everything except make money, and it was a blast. But as is pretty much the way it always goes in the entertainment world, you have your time and then it goes away. And when our popularity waned and the label dropped us in what was that, about 2000, my thinking was, okay, I'm going to go get myself a straight job, right? I'm going to get like a corporate job that's going to pay me a ton of money. And then I'm going to quit that job and go back into music and never have to worry about paying my bills, never have to worry about music paying the bills. And I thought, okay, real estate, people make a lot of money at real estate. So I'm going to go into real estate. And I had a friend who was running a mortgage broker company. It was a mortgage brokerage. And he hired me on to originate loans and all this stuff. So I started doing it. And I just dived into it 100%. Yeah. And there I was wearing a suit and talking about mortgage finance. And then I became a broker and I started my own private investing company. And then I built that company up to about $10 million of assets under management. And I was on it took 10 years. And I didn't think it would take 10 years, but really everything takes 10 years, which is something I've learned. But at that end of that 10 years, we were ready to be acquired by a private equity firm. And long story short, I was going to get stroked a check for about $17 million. And I told my partners, okay, I'm not going to be part of this once the equity firm comes in. You guys, I don't care what I have to give up. I don't want to do this. I really just want to play guitar. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. And they're like, okay, we negotiated. It's like, okay, 17 million. And off I go. But then the whole company imploded.
Was that
Yeah,
around the financial crash in 2008?
it was right after the crash, because we were trying to take advantage of the crash and loan to people who were doing distressed properties. But one of the partners made a horrible investment that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. Like, just gave all this money to a Ponzi scheme. And since I was the head of the company, I'm like, that's it. I'm dead. I had to do a walk of shame out of my own company,
Oh,
right before the big payoff. And so the unexpected turn that happened then was this kind of clean slating and this self assessment of what happens next and what did I just do. I had to look and say, obviously was not meant to do this. What I was thinking, I don't know. I was terrible, at the fine details of real estate management and money management. And with this blank slate, I was like, all right, what's next? I guess I can choose anything. I'll go with wine because I always liked wine. It was always a habit, a habit. That's good. It was always a hobby and passion. I'm like, okay, I do have to get a straight job. It's not like I can, go out and make money with music again. So yeah, so then I get into the wine business with a whole, which is a whole other 180-degree turn that never would have happened had I not been completely blank slated from this other career. Like I could never get into real estate again. And I had to choose something that would be acceptable for a guy in his early 40s. And, and my whole resume is like, rock star, real estate. So who's going to take you on there? So yeah, I got into the wine business, and it ended up being kind of the foundation of my first novel. And when I really started getting into long form writing, not just songwriting, but writing novels and essays, it turned out that my first published novel was about a guy in the wine business. So it was a completely unexpected twist that led to, I guess, another completely unexpected twist. But it was, definitely a 180-degree turn in my life that led to where I am now.
Meanwhile, it actually took you back to your original purpose, which was being a storyteller.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that originally you thought you were going to become a filmmaker and a screenwriter, but that's storytelling. And
you are 100% correct with that. And what was interesting about that phase in life when I was 18 and heading off to college, and my parents were like, we don't care what you do, but you're going to college. And so like, all right, I want to go to USC Film School. And they had just gotten the grants from Spielberg and Lucas and Coppola to build the whole new facility. I'm like, oh, I want to be a part of that. And I was rejected from film school 7 times. And it's exactly because of what you just said, is that I didn't know at the time that they're looking for storytellers, and that's what you had to project yourself as. That's the passion that you had to show, is I want to be a storyteller. I want to tell these stories. To look back on it, I wasn't capable of telling long form stories at the time. I couldn't fill up 2 hours of a movie. I couldn't fill up 300 pages of a book. I could write 3 minutes and 30 seconds of a story, which is what I got to be very, very good at. And that, songwriting. And so, it didn't make sense to me as to why there was this constant rejection going on until, I realized, yeah, that's what it is. It's storytelling.
Well, most 18-year-olds don't have enough life experience, especially 18-year-olds who are, born and raised in the United States. Like, I think if you were raised during like war-torn Germany or in a third world country where you had constant hardships to overcome, yes, by the time you're 18, you probably are married, you have a couple of children. No, seriously,
Yeah.
you would have a whole different life perspective. But being an 18-year-old in the United States in the 80s, 90s, even now, you're completely sheltered.
Yes.
You're living with your parents or parental figures who are taking care of you, at least the majority of people. That's the norm. And don't really have enough content for long form storytelling. You just don't have the capacity and the life experience to tell compelling stories.
You're absolutely right, 100%. And so when I did start, thinking about, okay, I'm going to write a novel, I'm going to, take the plunge. It wasn't until I was, 43, 44 that I started. and could look back on, life events and say, okay, I get it now. I have content. I know, I know from personal experience what conflict and resolution is, and who protagonists and antagonists are, and, conflict resolution and living with the lie and finding the truth and all those things. They all made sense. They all fell together.
Things had to
And
go wrong several different times in order for you to find that voice. And I say go wrong, in quotations, in terms of like the record label dropping you, building up a multi-million-dollar real estate company, having that implode, coming to a crossroads in your life where you really could choose anything and go in any direction. And then you chose to go into wine. And then that led to this fabulous novel that you wrote. It's pretty incredible because in hindsight, you could never orchestrate your life in that way. It's like, well, first I'm going to have to mess up doing this, and then I'm going to have to mess up doing this, in order to get my book, in order to have a good enough story.
yeah, exactly. And I think about that a lot, and I think about how nonlinear my life has been, and how things that some people start in their 20s and 30s, I didn't start until my 40s and 50s, and how life events and milestones that are supposed to that traditionally occur at this point didn't occur until that point. And it has its challenges. It's weird to still be working constantly and to still have to be pushing and driving all the time. And you look at traditionally people say, oh, okay, you work all your life and then you get to relax a little bit. And it's like, no, it doesn't look like that's ever going to happen. It's just going to be, this constant state of pushing it forward. But then again, I don't know if I would have it any other way. This is, creativity is my passion, and it's something that I can't deny about myself or set aside for too long without having the universe say, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're not doing what you're supposed to, get back on track. And so, I mean, not to be too existential, but it is what it is.
But I agree, when you're living a passionate life, you never want to retire from your passion. It's when you're clocking in and out of a job that is soul sucking, so to speak. It's like you're counting down the days, the years, the minutes until you get to retire and you get your pension or your social security, and you don't have to grind it anymore. But I feel like as creatives, when we get to live a passionate life, it's a privilege. A friend of mine has a quote. He says, I don't have to wake up and go to work every day. I get to.
Money can't buy you happiness. And I believe that's 100% true. And exactly as you say, I have friends who do have a lot of money who are still absolutely miserable. And, I come back at them and say, yeah, I'm super happy. All I really need is a bitchin' car. And then, I'm done, but that fundamental thing, that fundamental happiness of living your life and the way it's supposed to be, that's there. And that's really important.
Yeah. And feeling like you have some sort of purpose, and feeling that you're true to your inner being, and those things that make your soul happy. Like for you, you had this amazing investment company that you built from the ground up. And it's funny because you're like, I'm not good at that. And it's like, well, you built up a company to like be worth $10 million. You're kind of good at that. But it's funny because the goal was like, you were doing that just so you could play guitar, just so you could continue making your music. It wasn't like,
right.
I want to be rich so I can go sit on a beach and drink pina coladas all day long. which is what a lot of people dream of doing when they retire,
Right.
moving to a warmer climate and just having a more kind of laid back life. Whereas for you, it was just so you can continue living a passionate life.
Exactly. Exactly. And it would be great to have this ton of money so that I wasn't worrying about where the bills came from. But I think I could take about a good week of sitting in the sun drinking pina coladas and then be, all right, what's the next project? What are we doing now? All right, we're going to go make a record. We're going to write another book. Are we going to do this follow up? Let's make a movie. How cool would that be? Let's go make a movie.
I
So
have a
it's
feeling that one of your books is going to turn into a movie and your life is going to come full circle.
from your lips to God's ears, Jen.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your book, Pears with Life?
So, Pairs with Life is a fiction novel that is the story of Corbett Thomas, a one hit wonder rock star from the 90s who's become a sommelier at one of Napa's hippest restaurants. And he has been trying to become a master sommelier, one of only 230 master sommeliers in the world. And he basically thinks that if he could become a master sommelier, it'd be just like reliving his rock star status. But he fails miserably and kind of self-destructs at his Master Somm exam, and he's thrown out of the Court of Master Sommeliers. So he gets to thinking that his only shot at redemption is to save Napa Valley's historic vineyard from the idiotic development plans of a billionaire game designer who wants to come in and basically mow the place down and build a virtual reality play park. But there's actually a hidden plan that our game designer has that could put the entire valley in jeopardy. So yes, it's definitely a write what you know kind of novel. It's a fun it's a kind of book. It's a beach read. It's hopefully both funny and poignant at the same time. It was a blast to write it and having a blast watching it go out into the world.
Well, it sounds like an exciting read. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Where can we find this book?
So basically, every online outlet you can imagine, it's there. Barnes and Noble, Amazon online, Walmart online. Go figure. And then if you want to support indie bookshops, you can find it at IndieBound. I think that's indiebound.net, where you can order it, and then they'll send it to any independent bookshop in your area. So I love that thing. And I think if you can actually go to a bookstore and walk around, you can find copies on the shelves. But I mean, it was released in September, so we were right in the COVID situation, and maybe it's there, maybe it's not, but definitely online. And we'll have to see next year. The hardback comes out in December or January, so we might be doing a bigger push to actual retailers at that time.
Great. Well, we'll have all the links below, so all of you out there in the interweb can find this fabulous book. And then you also have a podcast, Pairs with Life. So can you tell us
Yes.
a little bit about this podcast? Is it about wine? Is it about romance? What is it about?
It's about a little of everything. So, yes, the Pairs with Life podcast, which you can find on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Uh, I actually had put the podcast together right before I started writing the book. And it's basically a different kind of wine podcast. I pair up different wines with what's going on in life. So we talk about everything: relationships, sex, adulting, parenting, pretty much anything. But then we pair a specific wine with why that goes with this life event. So it hopefully has the same kind of tone as the book. It's fun, hopefully insightful, uh, uh, and different.
That sounds really clever, actually, because there are some situations in life that we go through that you just don't know what the correct wine to pair with is.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, the episode that's going to drop this week is the wines that pair with the top three breakup lines that people use to start a breakup. So I've had too much experience with those, but so I know what wines go with those.
That's
Because it's a different wine. It's a different wine that pairs with "It's not you, it's me," than say another line. So
definitely. Um, and then my last question for you is, are you still playing music? And can we find your music anywhere?
yes, as a matter of fact, still playing music. As I mentioned, started The Uninvited with my brother. And for about 10 years, my brother went off to live in Maui with his wife and her family out there. And so the band was sort of on this permanent hiatus. But then this year he moved back and now we're neighbors again. And so the first thing out of his mouth, of course, was, "We're putting the band back together." So we put the band back together. And so
Awesome.
you can find our music at uninvited.com. I believe it's uninvited.com. Look for look for the old guys who look like they rocked in the 90s, okay? Because there's about 13 different Icelandic death metal bands that call themselves the Uninvited now. So we're the not death metal ones
Oh, that's
who originally
hilarious.
had the name. Uh, but yeah, we're excited about playing some shows again and maybe even doing some new music.
Excellent. Well, that's so exciting. I can't wait to hear your music, to listen to the podcast, to read the book. You've got so many exciting things going on. Um,
Terrific.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and coming on to chat. And thank you, everyone out there, for tuning in. We'll have all the links below. And I'd like to challenge you all to do something you never thought you would do. Let us know what it is and let us know where it leads you in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a magical day.